Hello, I'm the original Amish Ninja, as you already know. In my channel trailer, I mentioned something called Shatter Cauldron, didn't I? Well, I figure now is a good time to begin the explanation for what this is. So, what is Shatter Cauldron? Well, it's a story I've been trying to write for years, but it didn't always have this name. In fact, in the beginning, the story and the characters were nothing like they are now. But we're not here to talk about the old drafts. This'll be a surprise to no one, but many works have inspired this project of mine. If I were to give a list, it would probably be Soul Eater, Bleach, Berserk, Hunter x Hunter, Jujutsu Kaisen, Claymore, in ways One Piece, Attack on Titan. There's so many. This project is solely inspired by my love of shonen anime and manga, and seinen, since we're including Berserk and Claymore. Drawing comparisons to Soul Eater, Shatter Cauldron contains a large handful of characters that serve as allusions to popular characters throughout historical fiction. In Soul Eater's case, this was Dr. Stein, Death the Kid, Medusa, all of those. Without revealing how, though, I will say the protagonist of Shatter Cauldron alludes to Pinocchio. And the power system of Shatter Cauldron is inspired by, those found in Bleach, Hunter x Hunter, and Jujutsu Kaisen. I really tried to make the power system cohesive and consistent. The collective name for this power system is an end-of-story spoiler, so I will not be revealing it. The setting of Shatter Cauldron is very grimdark, and it's inspired by the kinds of moods and tones set in Berserk, Claymore, and Attack on Titan. Within the introductory arc, a tragedy strikes the home of the protagonist, in a similar manner as Attack on Titan, only instead of a bunch of giant humanoids that eat people, it's a pack of cannibals led by a psychopath wielding an enormous cleaver. So already you'll notice some Berserk parallels. And I know I didn't mention any video games in the list of works that inspired this project, but if I were to pick a video game, it would most certainly be Bloodborne, which is one of my favorite games of all time. But that's enough talk about the story's inspirations. Let's get into what the story actually is. Shatter Cauldron takes place in a fictional country called Zaltia, in a setting that mimics an albeit more Halloweenian Victorian era. This country of Zaltia is surrounded on all sides by a massive dome-like barrier, one that was conjured some 100 years ago by Angela the Hag, the Grand Witch of the Boiling Pot Coven. The Boiling Pot Coven inhabits the western half of Zaltia, within the barrier. To the east are their direct enemies, the Silverwatch Hunters. They are dedicated to protecting the innocent, unpowered civilians within their territory. Non-magic users. Before Angela the Hag came along, Zaltia in its entirety was the headquarters of the Silverwatch Guild, who had been hunting and slaying witches and sorcerers all across the continent. But at some point, Angela the Hag decided that enough was enough. She made it her goal to establish a paradise for witches and sorcerers to live freely and cause mayhem to their dark hearts' content. And what better place to establish such a paradise than the backyard of your enemy? What's worse than that is that Angela has a few despicable hobbies, like corrupting the minds of children she's kidnapped over the ages. Did I mention she's several centuries old, yet still retains the physical age of 25? There's a secret behind that. Right smack dab in the center of Zaltia is the small town of Cradle. It clings to the very edge of what's considered Silverwatch territory, and it was built over a deep ravine, one so deep you can't see the bottom. It's like an abyss. At the center of town, one massive bridge leaps over the ravine, and it's this bridge that allows travel between either side of town. Just like Zaltia itself, Cradle is split in half. The bridge itself is symbolic, but I won't reveal how at this point. That's something to be discovered. And it's this town of Cradle where our story begins. A fitting name for the starting location, right? Our protagonist is Zachary Norris. He is just a 14-year-old boy living a dull yet peaceful life. with his best friend Jillian Maines and his grandfather Tucker, who was a locally famous toy maker. All the toys the old man makes seem to dance and sing, despite having no internal mechanisms that would facilitate those actions. It's rather odd. It's as if he enchants them to life or something. But where, might you ask, are Zachary's parents? Nothing is known of Zachary's mother, and his father has been missing for 7 years. Austin Norris was a surgeon, but that's the only thing anyone in Cradle remembers about him. He had often made trips out of town and into Brigandeel, the holy city and capital of Silverwatch territory. On a day when things seemed way too normal in Cradle, disaster struck. A horde of cannibals emerged from beneath the ravine of all places, and they were ravenous and bloodthirsty. They took to slaughtering all the people in town. In between all the slicing and cutting, these freaks of nature would discuss methods of meat storage. It wasn't known why these cannibals decided to attack Cradle. In fact, their attack was something unheard of. Usually it's a witch or sorcerer attack, but cannibals? Something was very off. As Zachary, Jillian, and the old man Tucker tried to escape town on one horse, they came face to face with the leader of the cannibals. A very tall but lanky man, yet strong enough to wield a massive bloodstained cleaver, severed the horse's front legs in an instant. The horse died from the shock, and our main characters fell to the ground. Without any hesitation, the cleaver-wielding psychopath reared it back and attempted to murder Zachary and Jillian on the spot. But the old man stood between them, and he wound up in 2 halves. Stuck in a mental feedback loop and unable to settle on fight or flight, Zachary had to be yanked away by Jillian, who was quick on her feet. The 2 teens are then rescued by a man riding out of town on a horse. He quickly pulled them up onto his horse, and they rode out of town. This horse had armor, so it was clear that its rider was a Silverwatch hunter. But it wasn't just any hunter. It was Raymond Stout, the Cardinal of the Crimson Convocation Regiment. The cleaver-wielding murderer could not bring his weapon from the corpse of the old man quick enough to stop the hunter, but it no longer mattered. Cradle had been stolen by the cannibals. And that is how the story of Shatter Cauldron begins. So already, the grimdark nature of Berserk and Attack on Titan can be seen in the way I've set up this story. And of course, the script I just read off, that doesn't even scratch the surface. One could be confused by my quick rendition of the first major arc into thinking that the pacing will be very fast, almost too fast. But that's not what I have in mind. Something I should get across now is that I still have not decided what sort of medium I want this story to be in the format of. Whether it be a comic / manga or a written piece of literature like a book, I have not decided on any of that yet. My goal with this project is simply to get my story out there. This is the kind of stuff I am heavily into. And I started this project out of a yearning for Soul Eater of all works to finally get a reboot. But I don't think it's going to happen. Well, it might. It might happen once Fire Force is done. You know, David Productions might pick it up after they do Steel Ball Run. But in any case, this has been a full introduction of Shatter Cauldron, or for anyone who was curious about it, since I mentioned it in the, the channel trailer. If this kind of thing interests you, do consider subscribing and hitting that bell. All the other YouTube jargon. I am the original Amish Ninja. Peace out.